two, check one, 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 two. Good morning. This is Elizabeth Walker, producer and host of the Dear Business Coach podcast. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here. Today is Monday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Live with Elizabeth, producer's notes, and today the topic is journaling. So it's almost Christmas. We're in the holiday season for sure. And if you haven't already, subscribed to my email list so you can stay up to date on new releases, deals, and links to the lives like this one right here. We actually do want to talk about the deals page. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com/deals. Look for coupon codes and links to discounts that you can only get on the deals page. Okay, good morning, good morning. So, journaling. Our first audience listener question comes from a JD, and he says, or he asks, isn't streaming a form of journaling? Streaming is a form of journaling, is it not? That is an excellent question. And I would say yes, it actually got me thinking about video blogs, video journaling. And then I also responded, you know what? uh, Podcasters come from the blog world. And I actually have been listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Girls Gotta Eat. These are two girls, Ashley Hess and Raina Greenberg, actually women, of course. And they're comedians, they're entertainers, and full time podcasters. They cover pop culture and dating and relationships. And guess what? They talk about their businesses on their podcast. Their business is the podcast, much like this show here. And what goes on behind the scenes? How does the show get support? How does the show actually get content? And how are guests brought on? What are the topics that are chosen? And the actual conversation, right, starts a lot in pop culture and goes into personal stories. And I think that the story that I'm learning more and more about these ladies is their blogging history really informed their podcast journey. So this is interesting if you're a writer, if you would like to be a writer, if you think you're a writer, if you want to be a writer, and of course all of the above makes you a writer. All right, taking a sip of coffee here. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to be subscribed to the email list. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com/subscribe. And of course, just go to the homepage, dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. There is a sign up form for email right there in front of your face. I want you to see that first, and you will. So, guess what? A few days ago, I thought that Christmas was on Friday. It's not, it's on Thursday. So I've been actually looking through my notes, checking my list, and I have figured out that I have a Christmas list spread out over a couple of different pieces of paper, and that's maybe not the best practice. However, bringing me back to journaling, journaling is something that I've been spreading out over and over and over again over multiple sources, trying multiple notebooks, electronic notebooks, notepad, note app, Word document. This is, of course, by far one of the best times to be a journaler with all of the different ways to access note taking, and it's always in your pocket. I am still a firm believer of pen to paper. There's something tactile about touching the paper, and maybe you need to be a little bit of a dork of sorts or a nerd of sorts to be interested in something like the way that a pencil feels on a piece of paper. I know, I like that too. I think the most important thing is getting the idea down. So most importantly first, what do I have available right now to get this idea down? And one sentence, two lines is often enough. So that then means that how do I organize these notes? But actually, let's kind of get to the basics of what's some good advice that I've heard about journaling and some different professional opinions. That's part of the topic today, too, is to share with you this behind the scenes detail, as this is the producer's notes around the show, the Dear Business Coach podcast. And I get to tell you about what's going on in my office visits, in my office hours with other people. So I actually, of course, talk with many professionals during the week, couple of whom are just folks that I talk to for myself. And you may have heard me say on the show that I do go to a personal counselor, and that is, I guess, what you would call traditional talk therapy. There are certainly different tools and methods within that practice. That is a live session where I'm sitting in an office with my counselor, my therapist. I use those words interchangeably. And my counselor likes to say that journaling on paper is more important. Um, why does she say that? Actually, I have my own ideas about that, and I've asked her a little bit. However, if you've ever been to counseling, or if you know how conversations can go, sometimes maybe that's not exactly what we ended up talking about for the full 45 minutes or an hour. However, over time talking about journaling, that's what she has shared with me, that putting it to paper, putting thoughts to paper is the practice that she sees as helpful for a lot of folks who are interested in introspection, exploration, and relief. I think relief is really the biggest word, because let's be real here, some sort of place to put your thoughts. Some sort of emotional exchange with the tool you're using is simply that you're letting a release out onto the page or the paper. So I think part of the argument, or part of the idea here too, which my counselor is suggesting, is that just typing away on a note app or talk to text, that's actually how I like to do a lot of things, right? If you couldn't guess, is talk to text. It does really help when I need to just get an idea out. I don't know if I'll ever go back and read that. That was another concern that I had, that I shared with my therapist, is don't know if I really am ever going to use this. And I don't think, for the most part, that's the point. I think that what she was hoping I would come to my own conclusion around is it's kind of an emotional dump, right? That's one way to journal, is just let whatever comes out on the page come out. And it does help. I do find that to be helpful. And then I start to think, well, what am I going to do with this? What's the point of this? And of course, that's another conversation with your therapist. So thank goodness for her. Now, I have another kind of coach, or another kind of professional, my comedy coach. And you've heard me talk about my comedy coaching, my comedy journey, comedy writing. Let me make a note here on my notebook. Comedy writing. Getting back to my one page of notes, which is something we talked about for several months here on the live series. You all and I used to go over the one page of notes together about getting ready for an interview, how to take the nerves away if that's a concern, and some tools and tips for getting on a podcast recorded conversation. And I'm using my one page of notes here today too. So putting down on my notebook, comedy writing, I had written down as journaling is our topic today. And at the top of my page, I wrote email subscribers, Nord security, and dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com deals, to make sure to remind you about the deals page, dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com deals. Now, comedy writing has been a different kind of coaching around journaling. So, journaling related to comedy writing is the advice that I got was exactly the opposite. My comedy coach said, wherever write it down, it doesn't matter when something comes to you that you are exploring a thought, and emotion, and feeling. Talk to text, yes, talk to your phone, talk to your notes app, do it. Get it down, get it down. So I do both, and I have found it extremely helpful. And now I just create different tabs and have different notebooks. So, what else about journaling? That was actually pretty confusing there a few months ago. I was exploring journaling with the advice that my therapist had given me, and journaling with the advice that my comedy coach had given me. And so it's totally opposite. And guess what? Now I interchange both of them. So writing and speaking, depending on kind of what's closest, dedicating a notebook for different topics helps. So I do actually keep a notebook that's just for um the emotional dump, if you will. And then I have the comedy notebook, which is ideas that are feelings that could turn into something more to talk about when I go to comedy coaching. So that's actually something interesting too. Who are we reflecting with? Who am I reflecting with after I have done the journaling, after I've made the entry? So isn't a podcast stream like this one? Let's go back to our listener question. I said that JD's question was the first listener question. That's not true. I've had listener questions before. However, look for these ads and posts on Dear Business Coach podcast social media. Submit your questions, which this means you can say your name or you can be anonymous, and you can ask a question. It can be for me or a guest. It doesn't have to be aimed at a specific episode. What I'll do is bring these questions out as they are fun and helpful. So, isn't streaming is a form of journaling, is it not? So, right now, what am I doing? This is sort of like audio journaling. This is producer's notes, kind of like an audio journal, a format. And so I hope that you are actually going to listen to this journal entry, right? This is a behind the scenes kind of journal entry. Speaking of behind the scenes, yeah, I know people like to hear a little bit about the business behind the show. And that's part of what is going on right now. This month is December, and I'm making a few changes. Actually, the website is a little bit cleaner. I was using the YouTube videos to display those video interviews on the website, and it looks all right. However, in order to get you into the email list, I need to make that a little bit more obvious and in your face. Yes, if we want you to sign up for email that gives you the deals that you're looking for and the links, and then that way you can actually be a supporter of the show and keep up to date. Now, Apple Podcasts is also where you can follow. That's the best place to follow if you're interested. And of course, all of the other places where you listen to podcasts, make sure you follow and subscribe. The email is the fastest way to get updated weekly details and get looped in on freebies. Sometimes we have freebies from past guests who will actually email me and say, "Hey, I have this new freebie that I'm putting out, and I want to launch it. Would you like to be a part of that?" So Adam um, Barney did that, and actually we had let's see, a worksheet, not just a worksheet from him, but an actual new workshop that he was launching. Okay, and then also you will get access to gifts. So I have a gift. This is a holiday gift that's going on for the next couple of weeks. I have a book. This is from Clayton, my work with Clayton, my comedy coach. He's a co-author on the book The ROI of LOL. I am giving away a couple of free copies of this book, brand new out of the box, to draw attention to my comedy writing and to draw attention to the producer's notes. So there are gifts here too. The ROI of LOL, I have a couple of in the box fresh copies I'd like to give to you. So if you are listening, that's how you take advantage of the gift. Subscribe to email, and you can actually DM me or email me. Yes, I heard the offer for the free book. I'm interested. All right, let's take a sip of coffee here. So that's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Subscribe to email, and that's how you learn about things like the free book copy during the holiday season. Now, these live sessions are on LinkedIn and Substack. The LinkedIn lives actually are exclusive to you right now while you're listening. And not all of these live segments make it to be streaming episodes. Very important. So there are things you will catch here by coming here live, like the free book. The ROI of LOL is from my comedy coaching, my work with Clayton Fletcher. I don't know if I told him that I was giving away a couple of his books. I know that he would be happy to hear that. So I have a meeting with him today, actually. All right, so let's take a look back at the old trusty notebook. Yeah, so isn't streaming a form of journaling? I definitely do agree that yes, it is. I think the big thing is data. Where I would like to use the word data, tomato, tomato, because data is some kind of information I'm looking for from an experience as a result of some sort of effort, some sort of work. So sometimes we think of a data point as, for example, your email address is a data point when you sign up for a newsletter. How many we can count how many newsletter subscribers we have. That's a data point. Over what period of time? Those are different data points. And then, of course, on and on and on we can graph where growth comes from, what growth looks like, where meaning what sources are you getting a return on your investment of time. So that's something that some people spend all day long calculating and looking at. And in terms of streaming as a form of journaling, I would say that, yeah, absolutely. And does it not depend on how you perceive the experience? So, what's the data? The data is what happens when you're streaming after you're done? What are you streaming? When the experience is over, did you get a type of relief? Did you experience some kind of emotional dump or did you experience some kind of shift in your physiological self, which might also lead to an emotional change? And the other way around, too. Did you feel an emotional change first? And then perhaps physiologically you are different after the experience. That's exactly what happens for me when I journal is I reset my breathing pattern. I have to reset my breathing pattern now while I'm talking to you. So journaling on paper sometimes slows the breath down. I believe every time it does, unless you're writing about something very uncomfortable, which is a good place to do that. Visit something uncomfortable while you are slowing your heart rate down at the same time. I would maybe ask my therapist if if that's good advice or a good tactic. Well, I think this has been a fantastic behind the scenes producer's notes today. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy holidays. Visit the deals page, check out ways to support this show. At the same time, get a deep discount on our Nord Security affiliate of this. Nord Security is an affiliate of the Dear Business Coach podcast and visit my deals page on dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. My name's Elizabeth Walker, producer and host. I am thinking about you during this holiday season, and I will see you back here next Monday. You are a superstar.